Hello, I'm Daljit Dhaliwal, and with me is Andy Summers, guitarist of The Police, and we're here at New York's Milk Gallery, where Andy's got an exhibition of photographs which just happened to coincide with the Police's reunion tour, which I believe, Andy, is sold out, right?
Completely sold out, yeah. Yeah, let's talk about the photograph.
And this is an image here. This is great. So what's going on here?
Well, that could be a reason to do it, isn't it?
Well,
I joke.
Are your feet?
I jest.
Are your feet in the stilettos, or are those your toes there?
Two of my friends, took their with bare legs. You have to have honesty if you're going to set yourself up as a documentarian of anything. I mean, basically, that's the definition of being a documentary, really. So. This is not a documentary. It's a surreal dream. But I felt when I made the book and did set up these exhibitions that you have to reflect the life that I was going through in all aspects, not to really miss anything out or be prudish or censor anything. So, hence the photograph of this shag rug. God knows who those people are, but there you go.
Well, you just call them couple. Taken in 1981 in Toronto, some Canadian friends of yours.
Let's hope they don't sue me.
So let's talk about this set of 6 photographs here.
Okay.
This was taken, obviously, in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
You photographing photographers, then photographing you?
Well, also, yes, it's a kind of a self-reflexive image, and this, again, it's that quality of being on the inside looking out, which seems to be, I'll be watching you. Who's saying that, you or me?
Right.
And also, particularly about this picture, I love the Christ figure because it's so iconic and seems to be about the way you're viewed by the fans. So there's a few layers to this picture. And obviously it's Brazil, and everyone's looking. So I always thought this picture kind of worked for me.
Right. And how would you describe your style, and what kind of subjects do you like filming? I mean, obviously in these other 2 photographs we see Sting here.
I mean, it's possible that I don't have a style. I try not to get too fixed on anything. I try to keep it very open. I mean, my photography is done fast. And out of a sense of awareness of pictures happening around me. For instance, I'm not a studio photographer or portrait photographer. I don't just focus on landscape. I tend to photograph the life around me as it's happening, often in cities.
And this is kind of interesting here. You've taken a photograph of a shower.
A shower. Well, this was probably early days in somewhere like Phoenix, Arizona. I like this shot particularly because it shows, that phase of existence we were like staying in motels, days in, holidays, whatever. Not the greatest.
Not very glamorous.
But I love this shot because it's interior, it's exterior. You feel the city beyond the window. You feel the sound of that shower, the wetness. There's a lot of senses going on in this picture, and a lot of very ordinary circumstance, which makes for a very good photograph, in my opinion. Right. And I think when I really started to do black and white still photography, it was some way to get back in touch with the emotions that I experienced earlier in life.
And of course, a lot of these pictures were taken when the Police were on tour from 1980 to 1983?
Well, yeah, no, I think they overlap actually. It's more like 79 to 84.
And part of that world, obviously, is having a press entourage. And here you've chosen to film the press photographers.
Well, this was, press.
Who've been following you guys around.
Well, this was a press conference in Mexico City in a hotel with a very strange landscaped ceiling. I like this photograph particularly because this guy seems to be looking at us with his eye while he's got the other eye, his camera, and his, it just seems very primitive now.
Right.
The flared trousers. I mean, it's very much of that early 80s
So
period.
when you look through the lens, what are you, as a photographer, what are you looking for? What do you see when you look through the lens?
Well, obviously, something that is got a dynamic to it. It could be shape, color, line, light, one plane playing against another, sort of technical, pictorial aspects, or something that may be happening with people that catches a sort of a powerful moment. Or something that's kind of asymmetrical that ends up making a good photograph. Just to look at it catches your eye. everything has to have something. I mean, I see content in all of them. I like this particular because it shows an aspect of the life, you know, that I just like things like this thin line against his eye, the gaze of the eyes, the black on the hands, the preparation for shooting. There's a lot of content there in a particular moment. Now it's historical.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go away. We'll be back in a second. Hello, I'm Daljit Dhaliwal. Welcome back to The Mix, and with me is Andy Summers, and we're doing a tour of some of his photographic exhibition work. Andy, talk to me about this one, Help on a Toilet Roll. What's going on here?
Well, I mean, this was shot in Mexico City, and it came out of being surrounded, the hotel being surrounded by fans for about 3 days. It seemed like non-stop screaming at the time. It was one of our more intense fan experiences, and sort of we had to leave the hotel by the kitchen. What was that whole life like, though? I mean, being part of that whole thing with the fans and the girls and the groupies. A lot of fun.
Pray tell us more. What do you mean, a lot of fun?
Well, you have imagination.
I do, but I wasn't there.
It's a lot of fun.
You were.
It's a lot of energy coming at you, very positive energy. So you ride that energy.
And we sort of see that in some of the images that you've taken. I mean, there are a lot of women without their clothes on and that sort of stuff.
Well, nothing to do with me.
You were just photographing them, right?
Well, I suppose if you play this kind of high-powered music and you go out there to generate excitement and ecstasy and sort of abandonment, all these things, it all sort of is part of the scene. I think it's what people expect, and I think when I, made this book and this exhibition, you have to sort of reflect the honesty of the situation. I mean, we did not go around like choir boys or priests. I mean, we lived a pretty full existence, which we paid for in some ways. I was a single man for quite a large portion of the police existence because my wife divorced me early on. So, is that answered your question?
Well, yeah. I mean, in some ways, does this then sort of express that whole kind of existence of living in a bubble?
It's a cliche. I don't like the cliche. Oh yeah, we're in a goldfish bowl looking at. But there is a certain amount of truth to it, unfortunately. These days, in the days of the early 1980s, the whole sort of apparatus of protection and security wasn't as in place as it is now. And, for instance, now we're on tour again, playing to even bigger audiences, and yet our existence is very insular, very isolated from the fans.
Right.
And these days it wasn't so much. People seem to be able to get into hotels.
And your preferences for that experience or for the experience?
No, I liked it more
now?
When we were down on the ground with the fans. We live a very isolated time of it.
And in a way, I sort of do see that in your photography, that you are sort of out there photographing what's going on around you.
I reached the point where I realised I have to shoot every detail of this existence. I didn't start like that. At first I was just trying to make very good photographs and learning how to be a photographer and always, going through roll after film and getting good or bad results and learning along the way, trying out lenses, all the stuff you would do, like playing an instrument to become, better at it. And then I realised a couple of years into it that maybe, oh my God, I suppose I'm actually making a document. But it wasn't until I was quite a long way down the line that I started, I mustn't miss anything.
Right. Well, let's have a look at some of the other images that you've got, just to sort of wrap up our discussion. All right, Andy, so let's pick up with these photographs here. Obviously, again, from the tour, we see the fans here. We see Stuart Copeland and Sting. Do you have a personal favourite of your own? I mean, I know you had something like 25,000 negatives when you started out. How did you figure out which ones were going to make the cut for the exhibition? I mean, what kind of decisions did you make there?
Well, I think to begin with, I just take the very broad concept that the photography that's shown in the book should reflect the life, so it's not all on one thing or all on the other. It should just, generally get, all aspects of the existence, which is what I tried to do. So that's everything from, Sting and Stewart to fans, hotel rooms, transport, guitars, fans, whatever was going on around us, anything I thought was
Well, you
interesting.
really captured the minutiae of being on the road, didn't you, in a way, with a very, very kind of keen eye, like you didn't want to miss anything of this experience.
Well, I think it's those details that in some ways are more revealing. You know, that underneath all the glitz and the glamour, there are these little details that are actually, you know what the real truth is.
Right, well, what was the real truth?
It is all
the
minutiae, you know, that you go through all kinds of ordinary living. You know, you still have to get up in the morning, brush your teeth, you know, things go wrong.
Right.
So you try to show, you know, the fullness of the existence. It's not all just like being on stage under a spotlight. I shot something like 25,000 pictures, if you count every frame or roll of film. That's a lot of photographs of those years, and then had to kind of whittle it down to this, you know, actually very small percentage of what I shot. You know.
Did you always want to put it into a book? I mean, was the idea to kind of collect them all together and then have this exhibition, or was it, I mean, how did it come about?
You know, I did in 1983-84 a book called Throb, which somewhat reflected this life, but it did not have the, it was a much smaller book and didn't have the fullness and the breadth of this book. This book is, hundreds more photographs in it, and also all the journals. So you know, the writings, you know, some of it anyway, that I did at the time.
Right.
So I just think it's a much fuller revealing of the life through the photography and the writing than I did before. Whereas before I just wanted to do a photography book, and that's what I had. But this time I went full on. It's really a book about the police and that time that we went through.
And this does, in a way, coincide, just happens to coincide with a reunion tour that the police is having. I mean, this is, how long has it been since you guys played together?
I think, well, the last time we really played together was 1986. So I think if we figured it out, it would be 23 years. Quite a long time. It was a pure coincidence because I'd worked on this book for 2 years, mostly in London, you know, with a book designer doing the layout and all the technical preparation of the book, with no idea there was going to be a tour.
Right.
It was just something I was doing. It was a good creative project, and then very happily for both Taschen, who published the book, and, you know, us, the police, it all came together.
Now, why do you say it like that, though? Like, us, the police? What's that?
We, the police.
Right.
Well,
but like, why did you make that face, though, when you said it?
Well, I don't know. How am I supposed to say it? I'm not supposed to go the police. I try to say it any way you like.
Right. Okay. No, I was just kind of curious. And what about your own personal favourites? I mean, I know that you said that you kind of don't really have any that personal favourites.
Well, I never like saying favourites particularly, because it sort of, I always feel like it downplays the other